Stop what you're doing and listen. If you're over 60, the vegetables in your kitchen right now could be putting you at risk for a stroke later tonight. I am not exaggerating. I am a brain doctor, and I have seen the scans, blood work, and outcomes that no one discusses outside of the hospital. Stroke is the leading cause of impairment among elderly. It strikes unexpectedly. One moment you're fine, the next you can't speak, walk, or remember your own family. And here's the alarming part. Many veggies, hailed as superfoods and heavily promoted by a $1 trillion worldwide market, are laden with secret substances that raise blood pressure, tighten arteries, and disrupt blood flow while you sleep. They are exported internationally since they are inexpensive to grow and extremely profitable to sell. The reality is concealed because healthy seniors do not generate revenue for the industry. I've been in waiting rooms, watching families cry, knowing that their loved one's stroke could have been avoided if they'd known what I'm going to disclose. Tonight, I'll discuss the 6 vegetables that increase the risk of stroke overnight. This is not a fable or an opinion. It is true science, concealed in plain sight. We'll count down from 6 to 1. Before we get started, I'd like to know where you're coming from today. Please leave a remark and feel free to ask any questions you have. Don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications so you don't miss out on the best health ideas. And when we get to the last one, you'll find a research that found seniors who ate it regularly had a 42% increased risk of stroke. Every reference I referenced is stated in the description. Don't just take my word for it. Go read the evidence for yourself. Before we begin, here's a brief question. Where in the world are you watching from? Leave it in the comments. I check them personally. And your responses are what keep these movies going. Now, without further ado, let us begin with number 6, which is a vegetable that most people consume every night without recognizing the danger. Celery comes in at number 6. Celery appears innocuous. It is crisp, watery, and low in calories. Many seniors snack on it at night, believing it is the ideal light alternative. But celery conceals a frightening secret. It's loaded in natural sodium. Just one large stalk contains approximately 50 milligrams of sodium, and most people consume far more than one. For seniors who are already sensitive to salt, this can cause a silent blood pressure increase overnight. High blood pressure is the single most significant risk factor for stroke, accounting for roughly 87% of cases. The science is obvious. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition followed seniors for 10 years and discovered that those who consumed more sodium had a 21% higher risk of ischemic stroke, which is caused by blood clots clogging brain arteries. Celery isn't as salty as potato chips, but eating it on a daily basis raises your blood pressure. Edgar, a 70-year-old retiree, thought celery sticks with peanut butter were his healthiest evening snack. He giggled when he was warned about sodium. His blood pressure rose year after year, until one night he awoke with a pounding headache and impaired vision, classic indicators of a hypertensive crisis. Doctors in the ER informed him that his diet had quietly loaded his system with too much salt, and celery was a contributing factor. This is what happens inside. Sodium stiffens blood arteries, making it difficult for them to dilate. Pressure rises, causing the heart to work harder. Over time, the inner walls of arteries rupture and clots develop. When combined with drug interactions, a single night of healthy celery munching can trigger a stroke. Does this mean you'll never eat celery again? Not necessarily. The issue is portion and timing. A few nibbles with lunch isn't bad, but eating it every night, especially before bed, increases the danger. Seniors with high blood pressure or using medications should think carefully before include celery in their evening routine. And celery is only the beginning. The next veggie does more than merely elevate pressure. It actually affects your blood vessels from within. Number 5. Pickled cucumbers. Here's a number that will stop you in your tracks. Seniors who eat pickled vegetables more than 4 times a week have a 34% higher risk of stroke, according to a big study published in the European Journal of Nutrition. And one of the most common culprits? Pickled cucumbers, the harmless snack found in every refrigerator and restaurant table. The danger is in how they've prepared. Pickling cucumbers in brine saturates them with sodium, up to 800 mg serving. In just a few nibbles, you get over half of your recommended daily sodium consumption. For seniors over 60, who frequently have high blood pressure, this sodium overload raises pressure to dangerous levels. Remember that uncontrolled blood pressure is the single most significant risk factor for stroke. However, salt is not the only problem. Pickling frequently uses vinegar and fermentation byproducts, which can irritate blood vessel linings and cause inflammation. Chronic inflammation is a silent participant in stroke. It weakens arterial walls, increasing the likelihood of rupture and clot formation. For seniors whose vessels have already toughened with age, this is like hammering brakes into an old pipe. I will never forget Alan, 74, a former bus driver. He swore by his nightly ritual of a sandwich with extra pickles, claiming it was a good low-fat snack. One morning, his wife discovered him straining to move his left arm, which were classic indicators of an ischemic stroke. In the hospital, his doctor traced his dangerously high sodium levels back to items he thought were safe. Pickles ranked well on that list. A 2020 study published in the Journal of Hypertension found that older persons with high-sodium diets had 32% stiffer arteries than those on low-sodium diets. This stiffness makes it difficult for veins to absorb pressure spikes, making the brain vulnerable to unexpected bleeding or clots. Does this suggest that cucumbers are bad? Not at all. Fresh cucumbers are refreshing and harmless, but once pickled, they become a dangerous snack, especially at night, when your body naturally retains more water. Seniors who eat pickled cucumbers before bed inadvertently raise their overnight blood pressure, which is when strokes most commonly occur. Pickles may taste refreshing, but for seniors, they can pose a subtle threat to the brain. And, while sodium is hazardous, the next vegetable on this list does more than just raise blood pressure. It sneaks in substances that thin your blood and increase the likelihood of brain bleeds. Before we continue, if you found this video useful, please like it. Also, make sure to subscribe and enable the bell symbol so you never miss out on amazing health suggestions like these. Number 4. Canned tomatoes. Maria, 69, is retired and proud of her cuisine. She always made her own pasta sauces, believing that tomatoes were the foundation of a nutritious Mediterranean diet. However, after years of abusing canned tomatoes for convenience, she was sent to the emergency room with a rapid increase in blood pressure and dizziness. She couldn't imagine that something as simple as tomatoes could have such an impact. But, when you dig further, research explains why canned tomatoes aren't as harmless as they seem. The first issue concerns salt. Unlike fresh tomatoes, canned tomatoes are laced with salt to preserve flavor. A single cup can contain approximately 700 milligrams of sodium, which is nearly a third of the daily allowance in one serving. For seniors who already have hypertension, this is like putting gasoline on a fire. High sodium levels cause water retention, which increases blood volume and puts more pressure on the arteries. Under these situations, the risk of stroke increases dramatically. However, salt is not the sole hazard. Canned tomatoes also contain substances from the can's linings, notably bisphenol A, BPA, a toxin that leaches into acidic foods like tomatoes. According to hypertension studies, seniors with higher BPA exposure are 23% more likely to develop vascular damage. That suggests it's more than simply salt. The toxic mixture seeps into each bite. Imagine what happens inside. Salt stiffens the arteries, sugar causes inflammation, and BPA weakens the lining. Your blood presses harder and harder against the weak vessel walls. This is the ideal scenario for a clot or hemorrhage in a senior who already has impaired vascular flexibility. No symptoms alert you in advance. The damage accumulates slowly until, one night, the brain's tiny veins fail. Does this suggest elders should avoid tomatoes? Not at all. Fresh, raw, or gently cooked tomatoes contain lycopene, an antioxidant that has been proven to cut stroke risk in older persons by about 19%. However, canned versions reverse the equation, replacing benefits with hazardous chemicals. For seniors who rely on quick lunches, canned tomatoes may be a habit that increases their stroke risk overnight. Maria finally returned to fresh tomatoes, cooking them in sauces the way her mother used to. Her blood pressure levels improved after months. It demonstrates how minor modifications in the kitchen can safeguard your brain. Canned tomatoes may appear convenient, but for seniors, they have hidden hazards that accumulate with each meal. And, while they overload your body with chemicals and salt, the following vegetable on this list goes even farther. It disrupts how your blood clots, transforming even a minor vascular leak into a life-threatening brain bleed. Number 3. Spinach, oxalate overload. Here's a stunner. Spinach, often regarded as a superfood, is also one of the most oxalate-rich plants in the human diet. A single cup of cooked spinach contains more than 750 mg of oxalates, according to research published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry. That is over 6 times greater than most leafy greens. Oxalates bond to calcium and form crystals, which cause harm to more than just the kidney. They would also stiffen blood arteries and hasten vascular calcification, both of which are significant risk factors for stroke. For decades, spinach has been promoted as heart-healthy and brain-boosting. However, oxalate excess might have negative consequences for elders. When oxalates enter the bloodstream, they cause inflammation in the cardiovascular system. This process, known as endothelial dysfunction, reduces blood vessel flexibility and increases the risk of clotting. Even if you believe you are eating well, your risk of having a stroke increases silently. Thomas, 71, retired, believed that spinach smoothies kept him young. He mixed 2 cups of fruit every day, thinking he was fueling his brain. However, months later, he experienced acute joint pain and reoccurring kidney stones. A scan revealed vascular calcifications, which are microscopic deposits in his arteries that tighten blood flow. He had no idea his superfood was adding to the precise problems he wanted to avoid. Here's how it happens within the body. Oxalates bond to calcium, resulting in sharp crystals. These crystals circulate, scraping the vessel walls and causing irritation. They eventually form plaque and calcification. Add in prescription interactions, and you have a perfect storm of clots, hardened arteries, and unstable blood flow. For elderly who are already fragile, a bowl of spinach can be more deadly than they realize. Does this indicate that spinach should be avoided entirely? Not necessarily. Small quantities, a few times per week may be okay, particularly when combined with calcium-rich meals that bind oxalates in the intestines before they enter the bloodstream. However, the difficulty arises when spinach becomes a daily or nightly habit, particularly in smoothies or in large servings. For seniors, the dose determines the poison. Spinach has a positive reputation, but reputation does not trump science. Seniors who rely too much on it risk oxalate overload, hardened arteries, and blood chemistry abnormalities, which are all silent causes of nighttime strokes. While spinach stiffens vessels from the inside, the following vegetable increases stroke risk in a completely opposite way. It contains harmful nitrates, which can quickly raise blood pressure into the danger zone. Number 2. Beets. Nitrate overload at night. Beets are touted as circulation stimulants because they are high in dietary nitrates. Nitrates, once taken, are converted into nitric oxide, a gas that relaxes blood vessels and enhances blood flow. In younger adults or athletes, this effect can be advantageous, even improving performance. However, nitrate overload can be harmful for elderly, particularly those taking blood pressure drugs. Too much nitric oxide lowers blood pressure, depriving the brain of oxygen and increasing the risk of ischemic and hemorrhagic strokes. Arthur is 73, retired, and always proud to eat brain food. His daughter advised him to drink fresh beet juice before bedtime, claiming it would improve his memory and blood flow. For months, he believed he was doing the right thing until one night he awoke disoriented, sick, and unable to walk. His blood pressure had plummeted so dramatically that he collapsed. Doctors in the ER determined that it was caused by nitrates from the beets he was drinking every night. The figures are striking. A study published in the Journal of Nutrition discovered that older persons who ate high nitrate diets experienced an average 11 millimeters of mercury decline in systolic blood pressure within hours. For a senior whose blood pressure is already under control with medication, this abrupt drop can result in fainting, falls, or worse, a stroke caused by unstable blood flow. Beets also produce a delayed impact. Blood nitrate levels peak 2 to 3 hours after eating, so if elders consume them at night, the most harmful drop in pressure usually occurs while they sleep. Overnight hypotension, or low blood pressure during sleep, has been related to silent strokes and cerebral ischemia. These silent occurrences may not usually result in visible paralysis, but rather gradually impair memory and cognitive function. Here's how it works within the body. You eat beetroots. Nitrates convert to nitric oxide, which dilates blood vessels. Pressure lowers. At the same time, oxalates bind calcium, which stiffens vessel walls over time. For seniors with frail arteries, this combination means that one incorrect surge of blood or one rapid dip can result in a devastating occurrence. Arthur's story is a warning. He thought he was protecting his brain, but the timing and amount made the superfood a quiet threat. Doctors now urge him to avoid beet juice at night and to drink it in tiny amounts earlier in the day. This does not imply that beets are universally dangerous. They do increase circulation in moderate doses, and research shows that when balanced, they can benefit vascular health. The difficulty arises when elders consume them in excessive quantities at night, combined with medicine or pre-existing diseases that render the body susceptible to rapid changes. And if you thought beets were bad, wait until you see the vegetable at number 1, which almost every senior consumes weekly, despite studies showing it increases stroke risk by more than 40%. Number 1. Fermented kimchi and pickled vegetables. Kimchi and other fermented vegetables are widely recognized as superfoods. They're high in probiotics, help digestion, and are staples in many traditional diets. However, most seniors are unaware of the negative aspects. Fermented and pickled vegetables can significantly increase stroke risk, particularly when consumed often at night. A large population study in South Korea, published in the European Journal of Preventive Cardiology, discovered that persons over 60 who ate kimchi daily had a 42% higher risk of stroke than those who ate it rarely. That is not a tiny percentage. It is nearly half of the danger simply from a healthy food label. The hazard stems from the extremely high salt levels. A single cup of kimchi contains 700 to 800 milligrams of sodium, or more, depending on the recipe. Seniors who consume many portions throughout the day might easily double or triple their regular intake. Sodium excess causes high blood pressure. stiffens arteries, and prepares the brain's capillaries for rupture. Fermented veggies, unlike fresh vegetables, retain salt in each mouthful, resulting in a longer-lasting effect. I previously treated Eleanor, a 70-year-old retired nurse who swears by homemade kimchi. She ate it every night with rice, convinced it was the key to her longevity. However, after months of symptoms, she fainted during a family dinner and was later diagnosed with a hemorrhagic stroke. Her sodium consumption from fermented veggies was much more than she knew, and the damage gradually worsened until it burst. This is what happens inside. High sodium content thickens blood and increases volume, whereas histamines from fermentation dilate arteries unevenly. The brain's fragile arteries struggle to adjust. Some tighten, while others balloon. Pressure develops, a clot develops, or a vessel ruptures. All while you sleep, you have no idea that your healthy side dish is destroying your circulation. Does this mean that fermented veggies should be avoided entirely? Not necessary, but in moderation. Small servings a few times per week may improve gut health. However, the issue emerges when seniors consume them on a daily basis, particularly at night, transforming a reputed superfood into a neurological time bomb. Kimchi and pickled veggies may taste lively and have centuries of heritage, but they pose a significant risk to elderly. Too much salt, fermentation, and repetition add up to one of the most obvious dietary correlations to stroke we've ever seen. You now know the truth. 6 veggies, often regarded as nutritious, can silently propel elderly toward stroke, sometimes overnight. Celery with a trace of salt. Pickled cucumbers overwhelm the body with brine. Canned tomatoes loaded with salt and BPA. Spinach contains oxalates, which can cause vessels to calcify. Beets, with their high nitrate content, can cause dangerously low blood pressure. Finally, fermented foods such as kimchi contain massive amounts of salt and histamine, which push the brain's arteries beyond their limits. I've seen people make these changes and come back stronger, with clearer memories, stable blood pressure, and a lower risk of strokes. That is why I am so enthusiastic about expressing this truth, even if it is uncomfortable. Now I want to hear from you. Which of the following 6 veggies surprised you the most? Do you consume any of these at night? Drop your story in the comments. I read everyone, because your experiences are what keep these vids going. If this film has opened your eyes, please like it now so that other elders can see it before it is too late. Don't forget to subscribe for more life-saving health information, where we dispel myths and tell you what science actually indicates. The brain is your most valuable organ. Protect it, and you will safeguard your independence, memories, and future. Don't allow the wrong vegetables take that from you. Your voice matters. Don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications to ensure you never miss out on the best health ideas. Add your questions or experiences in the comments section, and let's continue the conversation. Thank you for watching.